Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move ahead to the 10th session of the day, and the topic is Media and Conservation, Shaping Public Perception and Policy. In the intersection of media and conservation, public perception and policy are often shaped by the narratives presented to the world. This session will explore how media influences conservation efforts, from raising awareness to advocating for policy reforms, ultimately driving sustainable change. We are thrilled to have Bittu Sehgal, editor of Sanctuary Nature Foundation India, as the moderator for this engaging discussion. I request you to kindly come forward and take a seat on the dais. Mr. Sehgal will be joined by an incredible lineup of panelists, including Mrinal Talukdar, author, senior journalist and editor; Sushmita Goswami, President, Guwahati Press Club, India; Barakha Das, independent journalist, India.
Hello. Come on, you, please.
Thank you. Our panelists collectively bring a wealth of experience and expertise in this field, which would allow for a highly engaging exchange of ideas. I will now hand over the session to the moderator of this session, Bittu Sehgal, editor of Sanctuary Nature Foundation, India.
So actually what we should have done was make a semicircle here to speak. I don't know, I don't want to get stones thrown at me by the organizers, but look, we're all journalists in one form or the other. So without much ado, I will say this, that other than joining the army, Navy, Air Force, we probably got the most difficult job on earth. And it's not just a difficult job because our jobs are difficult. It's a difficult job because it's becoming dangerous to be a journalist. This is not just here, this is everywhere. So in this situation, in this circumstance of few people in the room, but a huge threat looming over us, not us journalists, but over us as people, I would like to ask one question. Are we being recorded on this? Yes. Okay, so good. I'd like to ask one question. Let's start from your side. Would you first just give them a line or two of yourself? I've got something written here, but it sounds a little stilted. So just tell them what you're doing so they know, and the mic also will record.
Good afternoon. So I'm Barsha Das. I'm an independent journalist. I'm based out of Guwahati, but I mostly cover the Northeast, and I write mostly on environment and climate change, indigenous knowledge systems. Those are my focus areas right now.
My name is Mrinal Talukdar. I'm an accidental writer. And I do a lot of stuff. And I also write books. And in this profession for a donkey's years, for almost 3.5 years.
Hello, good afternoon everybody. I am Sushmita Goswami. I am a senior correspondent with PTI, Press Trust of India, and here of course I am here as the president of the Guwahati Press Club, which is the oldest press club in the entire Northeast, and I believe among the most vibrant also in the country, where we hold regular elections and we are elected body. Why I am saying this is because being in the profession, just as Sir mentioned now, which is a big threat here, and especially given the circumstances in Assam today. Elections held for a journalist body is becoming rarer, where everybody, the same people want to control everything, but we still hold elections, and hopefully we can contribute something meaningful to today's discussion and to the profession. Yeah.
Wonderful. Speaking for myself, apart from anything else, I have to tell you that some time ago, from Norway, chloralkali plant was imported into India. It was closed down there for environmental reasons, saying it's too dangerous to be close to human settlements. It was imported here and used nut bolts and everything else. We wrote against it, and I had to fight a defamation case for 23 years. Many court appearances, a lot of money, a lot of time, expecting that we would be asked to apologize, and we would apologize. We didn't. They called SLAP suits, strategic lawsuits against public participation. We are a pillar of democracy. Never have we needed to tell the truth more than we do need to say it now. And never has been the opposition to our telling the truth been more severe than it is now. So my first question, and we can go the same route. My first question is, are you free to speak the truth?
About myself?
I'm asking her that you, that's the same question for everyone. Are you free to speak the truth?
Oh, well, that's a difficult question. Yeah, we definitely try to speak the truth, but yeah, we need to cover it properly. I mean, how do you say? It's not, it has to be in a diplomatic form, quoting the right people. It's not, you can't just speak a blatant truth. There are some restrictions, definitely, which, even when we submit an article, it definitely gets edited, and yeah, there are some restrictions. Yeah.
I am free to speak.
Bless you.
So the very question that you have put implies that there are restrictions on speaking the truth. And being a media person who has always worked with news agency, I can say that I'm free to speak the truth as long as somebody substantiates it, and that somebody preferably should be, from somebody in a position. I won't say power in the very absolute term of governance, but somebody has to substantiate it. And when somebody substantiates the truth, it becomes their version of the truth, basically. So, I can speak only that much truth.
But I can give a rider to that. Truth is, absolute truth is a perspective. There's nothing called absolute truth. I can give endless example. Mahatma Gandhi is a further occasion for us, a traitor for somebody.
Yeah.
Similarly, Mujib was a father of the nation for Bangladesh. This entire thing was thrown off.
Yeah.
So endless kind of thing can be done. Northeast India is northeast from where? From Guwahati is not northeast. Northeast Cambodia is northeast. Laos is northeast. From Delhi is northeast India. So everything is perspective. Truth is not absolute thing. My wife is most beautiful of it for me. Since I said it, not for you. That's the thing. That's truth is absolutely relative and they are based on perspective.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I will say this now. Again, even though I'm supposed to be just moderating,
That's so big to say.
Yeah, no. I will tell you this, that right now, the truth is such a pliable, bendable thing. If you go back post-war, at that point, people in the American army were told to have DDT baths to get rid of fleas. Because they were going into places that they might get bed bugs and this and that and the other. So the pesticide industry was actually born of post-Second War. The fact that there was chemical warfare was very much a part of war. And what do they do with the capacities? So many of them turned to pesticides. And at that point, the rule became simple. It became denial. It's not dangerous. Then it became doubt. We're not sure whether it's dangerous. Then it became delay. It's dangerous, but it will take us some time to. Does it sound familiar with the climate crisis? It's exactly that I think that from my perspective, as a person who has been talking about doing this, and I will tell you this, if we did not have independent-minded journalists And if we did not have a few brave publishers, I think it would have taken 5 more years for the truth about climate change to come out. So I just said my piece, and we can go back, and I have another question, of course, that it's a corollary question. May I ask it of you? That if you were asked to write something,
You just come 1 feet ahead.
yeah, just a little bit ahead. Yeah, okay.
Otherwise, you are getting a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
If you were asked to write something that you knew was wrong, and would you still write it? I'm asking a personal question.
No, sir, definitely not.
You would not write it, irrespective of whatever consequences came.
No, sir.
Good. So you answered your question.
Same.
Yes, absolutely.
It's impossible. I will not.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I know.
It has been a donkey's years that I come on television every twice a week. I practice television as well. But nobody tells me to do that. It's not possible.
Your reputation precedes you.
No,
No.
sir.
I know.
So here I am answering as a journalist. First, the answer to your first question was a journalist, as a journalist.
Yes.
This is also a journalist. As a journalist, how you view it. If it is something wrong, of course, whether I am a journalist or I am a doctor or somebody else in any profession, I may be, a wrong is a wrong. But having said that, there are other, just as Minada said earlier, if a truth cannot be an absolute truth, so a wrong might not be an absolute wrong. So I'm maybe taking that cautious line where I need to keep my job. I have to. How do I track that middle line? And maybe that choice comes whom or where I work for. That is a choice I can make. I might have to give up on certain luxuries of life. Maybe for that, whether I am going to take that extra mile, I have to decide whether I am going to give away certain things, which are like personal gratifications only. Those things for my being able to stand, which I think is correct. But again, it is only when it's a bridge I'll cross when I get to it.
No, fair enough. I totally respect what you're saying, because all of us, none of us are doodh mein dhule hue. We are all guilty of something that we might be doing wrong, something that we might be doing right. It's just that we have to pick and choose what it is that we do right and
How
what-
much you can?
How much you can do, and there's that old adage that he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. There's no use becoming a bali ka bakra, but at the same time there's no use becoming a robot with somebody else writing your
Exactly, the
Can
middle
you
line.
Yes, please.
Please don't mind.
No.
I'm itching to say this. Yesterday also I spoke on that line. Perhaps this 2.5 decades, when I look back, and forgive me for saying that, and especially in front of you, anything coming in your magazine is almost like a sacred thing. So, are we actually overloaded?
Are we?
Are we media? Are basically in the mix of the policy, public policy, policy making, perception changing? Are we given too much of importance? Sometimes I feel like that. Are we still, the people believe that the media has strong some kind of role in changing the perception of the society? I question that. I have a problem on that. I can give you a couple of quick examples. Are you from Delhi? No, lucky man.
I can breathe.
Ah, you can breathe. Delhi is right now a gas number. Everybody knows thousands and thousands of centimeters of articles, debates. It's wrong. I think we'll switch up. Thousands of articles. Come on, help us. They will not want. They want. Okay. Thousands and thousands of articles, television shows, hundreds of them forwards, everything about gas center. From November 12 to December 13, 14 is the peak marriage session in New Delhi. Roughly an average estimate says 20,000 marriages a day. Can you tell me a single marriage where firecrackers are not used? So where is the perception of how much we actually are impacting the society? Number two, in 1996, Supreme Court has completely banned felling of trees in Northeast India. We all know it, we have extensive written about it, I was a cub reporter at that. Hundreds and thousands of articles, including your magazine, have written extensively in hailing it. This is the greatest party to save Northeast India. In last 28 years, is there a single house in Northeast India which could not be constructed because of the want of wood? I am speaking from a chair which is of wood also. Where from this wood has come if the filling has been stopped in 1996, 28 years ago? ये तो मलेशिया से गया है, तो where is the perception? Where is the impact?
Some techie has to come and do something.
It's the truth. So where is the impact? So I said the media, we have been writing, talking, all those things. I give you 2 examples. I will not give it in third example. I can give it endless. We are talking about single ban of single-use plastic. अच्छा नहीं है, खराब है, दुनिया भर में कहानी है. From WhatsApp universities to the seminars, to the newspapers, to the television shows. Do we go to the market with a bag? We do not. We go, we come back with a plastic thing. So where is the impact of media? We have the impact of media in 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. It affects the class, but it doesn't affect the mass. It affects the elite class. So sometimes I think this entire environmental thing, the ecosystem, biodiversity, climate change is basically a very elitist thing. It not to the masses, and to the masses has now something very serious which we cannot handle. It's called desensitize. बोलो, देखो, forward करो, भूल जाओ. उसके beyond that is not there. That's why I feel that I myself represent from that society or that particular tribe whose role is overbloated by the rest of the people, and perhaps the environmental world, the ecosystem need us to sell their story, and the story has become a product. And we also go for a good story. The endless cycle goes on. The environmental groups or the biodiversity groups give us a story for their own product, which sells a product, and we need the product to market our costing because we need the wildlife. ये कहानी चलते we end up in a success cycle. That is why 22,000 Malays do not even give a damn to your backing up ban, but a single and this 1996 Supreme Court ban is flouted day out, day in.
I have no doubt about the veracity of what you're saying. I know that from personal experience as well. And I will say this, that the subject that we're talking about is media and conservation shaping public perception and policy. So my earlier questions were basically in my own head. If we are going to shape public perception and policy, we can only do that if some people at least speak the truth, credible people. Otherwise, it becomes a Goebbelsian way, in which you go around, you said, tell an untruth 100 times and become the truth. So, I'd like to just shift from, not shift from the subject, but I'd like to shift our geography specifically to the northeast. I've been on the ministry's infrastructure expert committees for 15 years. At that point, there was a dam, Subansiri, that Subansiri lower and upper, that we were told to examine. We went over there, very few people walked the watchman there said सब जो पहले के लोग आए थे हेलीकॉप्टर पे आए थे सुबह दोपहर को वापस गए और when I saw the report it was 300-page report. So my point is now here specific not to the 300-page report size, but what is your perception of what is going to happen in the northeast when large dams and large impoundments are built in an earthquake-prone zone where we know of something called RIS, reservoir-induced seismicity, as one particular thing, apart from anything else. And if we are sitting in Assam right now, what would be the journalist's perception of where will the water go out from? It has to pass Assam, or wherever you do it in the northeast. So what becomes your job? What becomes your responsibility in terms of your personal opinion and what you're allowed to say about the release of water, let's say from 6 large dams, because they will all want electricity at the same time. So what will happen from your perspective? How would you cover that?
Okay, so well, I had the opportunity to cross the Bogeyville just 2-3 days back, and I was shocked. Like I crossed the same bridge 2 years back, exactly 2 years back. It was like a pristine blue, Now it's all grey. There is practically no water. I was just standing there on the bridge and thinking that wasn't necessary. We could just cross the, Brahmaputra walking. That's the situation right now. Okay, talking of electricity, I would say, I'll come to the dam part, but I would say I work on indigenous knowledge systems and in the Northeast. When we talk about electricity, we see when we talk about climate change, dirty electricity is responsible for 70% of the greenhouse gas emissions. No doubt we are talking about large hydro dams and the consequences of it, the damages it's caused. But there are smaller solutions. Last year, I did a story in Arunachal. Arunachal, like the Eastern Himalayas, actually it's everywhere. We have these water mills, traditional water mills. In Arunachal, it's called Chuskor. We also have these in the northern, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Kashmir. They are called Kharaks. It's everywhere. It's across the world. Everywhere it has already been upgraded to produce, hydroelectricity. These are probably around 5 kilowatts, and it's doing amazing. I think we need to talk about decentralized electricity. The northeastern states has a lot of scope for that. When I went to Arunachal, almost like traditionally every village has at least 2 or 3 of these chuskors or water mill. Most are dysfunctional.
If another, like Terry Dam, if you take on one side or you take, if there's a failure of that, what happens to our economy? We've had maybe 700 landslides in the Himalaya, including parts of the east, but mostly. What happens when to the economics of it? Because the dam breaks, the road goes down, they build it, the GDP is double. The GDP goes up. There's no minus button on the computer or on the calculator. I want your economic answer to this, not an ethical one.
It's an extremely complex question. Which is developed in buses, the trucks and the. From an economic point of view, see, you need 1000 megawatt place in the north, in the state itself. When you have a grid system now, we have a long-term power purchase agreements. Beyond that, you have to buy the power from the open market, like they only do 42, and you that this price is will fix. I am not saying that I am absolutely against the big dams. Not saying this because see, there are such huge requirements coming. With 6 months of the northeast on the cloud, solar is not an option. Next is what is hydel, solar, wind is definitely is not there, and thermal is too dangerous. Amongst all, hydel is done. At least for the northeast is possible. Now, if we consider this, we have substantially 3, 2, 1 up. Demand is coming up. Pigavin has got one more big thing. There are about 50 odd things are there. It looks dangerous. But just across 50 kilometers beyond Vishin, the place where sun enters, you have 3,500 people. Sian is getting less water, all these things. Because Sian carries, I think, is at the point where the Vishin Sian enters India. Vishin, I don't think it is more than, it is very classified information, but probably around 10-15% of the water at Bogio. Because after Sian coming into India, about 200 kilometers later, another river called Siong, S-I-Y-O-N, joins Siang and Siong becomes Siang, and then eventually you get all the other rivers and eventually the Brahmaputra forms. But economically, it is unimaginable if the dam break. But why talk about dam break? We have one next one about this one. I forgot the name. This tower. It is because of the glacial lake up there. Not the tank, but the glacial lake there. And about a Terry. But I mean, all over the world, there are dams which are not breaking. So if we talk about the hypothetical situation, in that way, if we talk about that, then I have another thing. There is the question of riparian rights also.
Yeah.
Now, China has this entire ownership of the disputed land. You do not do anything. You indirectly admitting that it is a disputed land. They have there is something called riparian rights. So from that perspective, again I told you, the truth is always dangerous. From a riparian right point of view, India, आपका घर में बगल वाला का सर आपका प्रॉब्लम है लैंड का, आप उस लैंड में कुछ नहीं कर रहे हो क्योंकि इसमें डिस्प्यूट है, that means you are accepting the disputed land. From that point of view, so again I'm telling you this is such a complex answer. I cannot say we need a big dam, okay, but we cannot say without power we can leave. So it is a very complex answer. I don't have a straight answer, but I do not also believe the small person. It is a great where we are electrification going on. But one thing you very nicely is ultimately the end of the world is GDP. GDP growth with the consumption of what? GDP is calculated by the power consumption and the cement consumption. So any destruction will means GDP is going up. You got to understand that.
So that was the question that I was looking from you, because I have read many, but I know you know, more than you think I might know you. And the fact is that if you go to a doctor and his thermometer is defective and he starts giving you medicine.
This GDP thing is very defective, dangerous thing. People don't understand.
But that's what the justification
That is because how to calculate the GDP? GDP is calculated by the power consumption and cement consumption. So this is a cycle. Again, I'm telling you, keep on saying.
Cost-benefit ratios.
Yes.
When you talk of cost-benefit ratios, what happens is that you say that this dam is going to cost 100 rupees, it's going to last 100 years, so it's only going to cost 1 rupee a year.
Yeah.
Now what happens is that GDP is one part and cost-benefit ratios. I'm talking about the complexity of journalism. They have to understand what health is, they have to understand what economy is, they have to understand what technology is, they have to understand what politics is, they have to understand what sociology is. But in this case, there is a very cut and dry thing. Climate change is not disputable. It used to be disputable, it's passed over that. It is happening, and it is happening in real time, and it is going to cause a very major financial loss, and it is also going to cause a huge amount of social internal displacement to India. Now these infrastructures, if you built in this hall and there were 7 beams of this which were wrong, or you got an architect coming in, taking in, suppose the wrong thing is being done and we are sitting over here, we don't know. So it's only the journalist that when I was speaking of truth, I wasn't talking about political truth.
The biggest problem is that problem, especially the agency people where I used to be, even I come for a long time.
Yes.
Where do you get the source? It has to be an official source. That official source, officials are party to the whole thing. This is a real problem now.
Boliye. I don't want to put you on an issue. You only speak what you think is okay.
Since you started this line conversation with the Lower Subansiri dam, when I did my first reporting on that dam, I used to work with Minada that time. I was with UNI, and the first story I did there was I spoke to a young guy from that part, from Dhemaji, and he gave me a briefing about how the people movement is going on against him. It was around I think 2005 or 6 I had done that first story. And he was among the first band of youth who had actually come out against him. And I was really moved by what he said. I was just into the profession, and I was a journalist on a mission to change the world. So I was very moved, and I always remember that story. I always remember him, and I did that story. Then, few years later, they started with a band of young boys. Then there was this entire villages coming up and doing night vigil there. It was in the month of January, December, which is very cold. We have a Magh Bihu. They had the Magh Bihu Ruka feast on the streets there. And what came of that? We got, I think, I'll not mince any words about it. We have an MLA out of that entire agitation. So that is what we have got. But this particular guy, I met him this year when I was again in the country for election coverage. Yes. I met him again. I didn't remember his name. I just went to interview somebody who was still with the Lower Subansiri dam agitation because it was becoming a non-news. Me, somebody sitting in Guwahati, I was thinking, what is happening there? The dam is not ready. Where are the people who are agitating? What is happening there? I tried to meet somebody to get an understanding, and at the end of an hour-long conversation, I realized that this is the same guy. And I asked him, what did you gain from there? because I was still moved by the story that I had done then, you know, and I was, as a journalist, I cannot be an activist, but I was an anti-dam kind of a guy. And he tells me, we had a very successful movement. People now understand what the dam is, but I said the dam is being made. Nothing changed. Nothing, as far as I understand, nothing structurally has also changed. No, but we brought the narrative into the mainstream. Is that success? Means what that is, when Minada initially mentioned, that is what media is. We are puppets at the hands of different people. We have to be intelligent whether we play onto them or not. And one thing I always believe, I believe in the first story that I had done as a rookie reporter in 2005 or 6, where I was the voice of the section whose voice was not being heard. Me as a media person, my job is to be the voice of the voiceless first. Of course, that is the problem. Am I being a journalist or am I being an activist? That is a thing that, over the years you develop and you evolve. When you meet that same guy who was an activist then and like 20 years later, he is okay, chalo, aap logon ne baat to kiya kam se kam uske bare mein, that is all we have done. Another guy becomes an MLA and you get disillusioned kind of, but you also become mature and I believe a little smarter. And then maybe I can contribute in a more better way, without getting emotionally swept and make a, I won't say change or something, but a little more balanced reporting. I need to be the voice of the voiceless, definitely, but who brings that voice to me to voice those voiceless? I need to be wary of that also.
That's a really, really good point that you're making. I'll tell you one of the things which we don't have to ask the question, everybody will know this, that one of the things that happens with journalists is that there is a certain degree of protection. I do not have to reveal my source. Now that is something which has been sacrosanct. It's like religion. You do not reveal your source, otherwise you will never be able to understand the truth. You will never even be able to know whether what you're writing is right or wrong because it's not verified. So at this particular point in time, revealing the truth, the dilemma for me, for you, for everybody, for journalists, is that does your loyalty exist to the owner of your publication or your media channel? Does your loyalty exist to your family? Does your loyalty exist to your community? Does your loyalty exist to your country? Does it exist to the next generation? Because there are many things that are being done right now, including plant Dibang. You look at Dibang, and the number of trees that will go over there, we're talking about not having 1 or 2 trees. I'm saying all these things become, I would say, my question to the three of you again will be, how do you cope with the stress of knowing the truth and not being free to fully express it as you might have been something like 30, 40 years ago? That would be for you or me, but not for them, but still. But you can understand. I mean, is this stressful for you? Even if you don't write, it's stressful, and if you do write, have I got it right? Or? Please.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know much more than we actually write. There is always a limitation in what we actually write. And yeah, it's kind of stressful. Like sometimes I feel that I'm not being completely honest with the story I'm writing. I could have done a much better, more impactful and honest report, but that doesn't happen. That's not always allowed. So yeah, I mean we know more than we write.
Yeah, so I'm going to take that same point of yours and ask Mrinalda with a small corollary to that. That I've known many journalists and I've known many editors and I've known many owners of publications, etc. I know that there are many journalists who, when they know and they can't write, you call it a leak if you will, they make that information available to somebody else who will not be in that much danger. But the truth will come out in one form or the other, and with social media it's becoming easier to do it. Of course, I'm not defending social media. Quite frankly, I think it's becoming like a camouflage. You never know what is true, what is not true, even when your friends write it, So given this, how do you cope with the stress is the first question. If we have to influence others, I repeat that question, Media and conservation shaping public perception and policy. Policy is not only to be shaped by the politicians. policy is also to be shaped by the man who goes and votes that 5 years. He is also shaping policy. How would you, what wisdom can you give us, or what?
I think is, my life is quite simple. As I said, I don't hold back anything. So that stress is not there. If there is something, there is a story, which I always tell to my juniors, to talk about this question. You were in a forest ivy guest house, and there is a midnight storm. Window is open, flung open. You go out and see this lighting that one tree is standing tall, and these tall bushes, elephant grasses are dancing, and you see you get scared of lightning coming down, close down the window, and then you try to fall asleep. In the morning, you see quite nice morning. The tall tree is gone, but the dancing elephants are standing tall.
Very well, very, very graphically and.
I will allow my look to get with it. For that moment, I will dance. I will keep straight. With the strong bow.
Look, we can, as you see, this is not the usual, what maybe Balipara Foundation thought we'll have it.
That's why I like it.
Yeah. So, are there any questions from, how much time do we have? Any of the organizers just tell us?
But if you allow me to spare, because I have to go to Bali to that side, yeah, driving pencil. You have 10 minutes, yeah.
In case there are one or two.
No, I can go for 10 minutes.
Yeah. If there are not, somebody.
Farhan asked,
Yes.
we are the questions we will ask questions. But I will not allow surrogate, I will not allow follow-up, but I will not allow report. Because these are all my colleagues, they know.
We are marked.
Yes, insider information about who you know.
These are not allowed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
That's
Arun.
So I want to ask one thing. I feel the job of the media is to report facts as they see it. Let the perceptions be created by the reader of how we understand it. Unfortunately, a lot of reportage is done from the perception that you have of the event that happened. And that is what is, I think, where people like us get a little upset. So if there's an event, I mean, like you said, a bogey bridge, you've crossed it, this is it. There is, now if you write that when I came in and you've sort of already created a perception which sort of impacts my thinking of how I look at that particular thing, then you're creating prejudices in the mind of the public about an issue one way, positively or negatively. And this emotional hype that is created with this puts pressure on the political leadership or the local leadership to take decisions which meets the requirements of the public instead of actually addressing the problem. So that's my personal view. I would love to hear.
Yes, absolutely like this, sir. From the border dispute to the environmental causes, all are like that. The problem is that where do you get the information? Let's say I talk about the public health. NFHS 4, NFHS 5, these are the places where we can do compare and final figure. Now this government has withdrawn the NFHS 5. We do not even censor, we don't have anything. So where from you will get to do reporting, sir? We don't have any data. We do not even know, ask Rupag is sitting in front of us. How much water Sian rivers carry, and what is the percentage of that in Bogeyville? Do you know? It's a national classifier.
No, I mean, till the time we were here, you already, like the Lohit that used to get, by the time the Samco gives it in, you're getting it between 15 to 20%. No, this was a fact which was there initially. I mean, if you have said it's been removed, data is there on a digital footprint today. Data, if you go back, you'll find it. The complete policy of the water here, it came out that the eastern Himalaya, because I looked after 3 courts, so I was impacted on the security front. This whole frontage, we knew the amount of water that comes in. When you said you made that great dam at the Meto and coming in, what was the impact on the water body? A large portion of the rivers that come into this part of the country, the Siang, the Kamla, the Bhikkhu, Lohit, all of them take this water from the watershed which is on our side, majority. So today, every time Sanpur does a damming on this and you start creating this hype, we listen, very China ने तो पूरा उड़ा दिया है, अब हम लोग यहाँ पे नंगा हो जाएंगे, तो नहीं, वो नहीं है.
It's not true. It's very correct. It's
So
not
that's
true.
what I'm saying. So please don't take recourse of certain. These data are empirical. If you've been a journalist here for the last 30 years, I'm sure you have this data.
Yeah, we are writing it.
So that's something. So don't blame it that today I can't see it on the net, so I can't give an answer. I served here in 2007. Before that.
What are the questions, sir? You're taking it long. Make it short.
Yeah, the short issue is don't blame current thing for not being able to do a factual reporting.
No, I am blaming you for using the firecrackers in your neighbor's marriage in Delhi. That is what saying. I am writing
Hold on.
I tell you. You were telling all the others not doing it.
Vinanda, 1 minute. I will just take the moderator's privilege of just bringing this thing back to what we had originally thought of and what the issue is this. See, I am somebody who's been working now for 35, 40 years on climate change with data that we had 40 years ago that we are going to have a problem. All the articles that I've been writing for Indian Express and all these various things, I'm looking at those now and I'm thinking to myself, I consider myself to be a pretty ethical, pretty careful, well thought of articles are written, I'm editing, but I feel horribly guilty at the fact that I was not able to succeed in convincing people that what is happening and how can I convince them if I am not going to tell the truth? Or if I tell the truth and I don't have the bandwidth to be able to get it out on TV, then what do I do?
So I am also an extremely small kid grower.
Yeah.
Because of the climate change, 1 degree temperature rise means we have more different kind of waste which I cannot control.
Yeah.
And that thing just is facing this big problem.
So may I share, is there any other question? We've got about 10 minutes, please. Somebody give a mic or speak very loud.
Yeah, carry on.
Right. My voice is loud enough,
Yeah.
I'm sure you will hear. More simple and more, shall we say, less controversial topic. Very simple. Very simple question. Given that as journalists and as editors in the you have your compulsion, you have your pressure in terms of what makes it to the news today or tomorrow. Right? When you come to a topic like conservation, when you come to a topic like conservation, it's not something which will attract eyes and attention. Maybe on your page 4 or 5, you might have a small article. But also the other thing which is happening is in the context of climate change, as you were talking with you, because like you, we have been in this field for a very long time. Right? It's only now that you see climate change and things coming up, these issues coming up. There's also this whole search, if you like, of solutions. And in the context of Northeast, I as an ecologist, I know that we have many solutions which can go out to the world and provide answers. As a journalist, you write that, and you're talking about indigenous knowledge. When you want to write that, what sort of support do you get from your editor or from your media? Saying that, yes, this is very important, let's put it. But you find that there's something else which comes up, maybe political or others, which takes your article and puts it on the shelf.
You can keep that there. If there is another question from the floor, just
Okay, but I would still like to add a few things. The problem is, there, as you said, there's a lot of solutions. Now, I am an independent journalist. I don't write for the regular newspapers like in the Northeast. Like I mostly write for Mungabe, Dialogue Earth or something like that. So these are platforms that are completely dedicated to them. But the problem that I've been facing is that there are a lot of solutions, as we say, and we definitely put them. We do a lot of research and we place them. But that goes to a very limited audience and it never reaches the actual audience. I write stories about Guwahati. Firstly, when we talk about conservation and climate change, we have been writing more about impact. We haven't been writing more about the causes. So there is very limited, I feel, articles about the mitigations. Since we are not addressing the causes, the masses are not understanding it, how are we going to find a solution to that? The Again, then even for impact, the stories that we are writing goes to a totally different audience, like mostly researchers and people who are actually interested. But it doesn't reach the people it should actually reach. The vernacular media, the regional media, I think it's time that every media house, be it print, be it TV channels, have a dedicated climate or environment page or a program.
I would like to correct you here. Since 1992, I cannot talk about other places, but about Assam. Since 1992, Assam's newspaper, all vernacular newspaper, have a weekly dedicated space on conservation in India. My gentleman next to you will sitting with you and will endorse. No, I don't know how many other language has got that. Almost every single vernacular newspaper has got more than one page is dedicated. It has evolved a huge team of the thing. Rothin is sitting there. He is a product of that. And Vibhav Talukdar, you all know. Then name it, Kaushik. It all started in Azir Batori, I think in 1992, and that tradition is continuing. We have space, we have total space. One page a week, maybe more than one, is always available. But yes, what both of us saying, all are saying, सारे से impact कितना करता है इसके लिए main problem है. About the articles, at least any day, 15% of Assam's articles published in any language are on environment at any given day, even today. Any given day, we have a very deep concern. अरे यहाँ में एक minister का resignation हो जाता है because of the नौकरी जाता है because of the rhino kill. Where the article get it? A national issue, political issue, when rhino number gets killed. No. Zero rhino killing is a big political thing. Anything more than 6 is absolute suicide. Rocky Bull Hussain almost lost his job. The government Congress government got almost vanquished because of one of the main reason was that. So in Assam it is extremely sensitive. Yes, but that problem is there. Desensitized हो गया सब कुछ.
No, but it only comes when it comes to rhino because there's the brand. Every day I put on the TV to monitor what's news coming or the newspapers I flip through. Every day I get at least one news that illegal timber felling is going on. And me as a journalist and all the people who are associated with that will understand किसी को पैसा नहीं मिला, cut नहीं मिला. That's why this news is playing. I am a person from the profession and I am saying it with a lot of shame. With a lot of shame. That is the kind of ground environmental journalism that is being done, or otherwise it is the more the intellectual kind of a thing. It comes with a byline on page 1 of leading newspapers, even the special weekly pages that come. But it is we celebrate Purnima Baido or we celebrate Jadav Pai, but only after they have achieved something. When they were doing that, nobody knew. And again, then the perception comes that are we doing this for some kind of glorification or something? And so one thing if I may say about today's topic, we are speaking about media conservation, but very it's a hard truth for here. We Assam media have not reached the level of conservation. We are still stuck in only climate change. It is only the conservation is kind of next level. We are still we don't understand what is happening here.
No, so this is an interesting point to end this discussion on, because climate change is nothing other than biodiversity disruption, biosphere disruption. It is that, and it is the fact that this is the clearest evidence of market failure. Market failure says it is self-corrected. For Adam Smith only, he said if you demand is there, price will go up and everything will balance. They were balanced. They consumed much more because they devalued the asset, which is to say the forest, the stream, the wetland, the river, the glacier, they devalued it. And if you devalue an asset, you are destined to lose it. So, given this, let's end on one slightly easier, and I think it might be not happy, but for journalists it would be a great thing to do. You can't say this, I can't say this, she can't say this, it can't say this. But there are people, you mentioned Vibhav Talukdar, you mentioned, Jadav Pai, I think our job right now is to change the perception of heroes. Who are our heroes? Our heroes at one time, we knew because we won freedom, we did this, we did that, and the border and army, navy, they are protecting us. Without them, what would we be living for? ये धरती से तिलक करो, ये धरती है बलिदान की. लेकिन अगर धरती ही मतलब मर जावे तो हम किस चीज को प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे हैं? So I would like to know that at this moment in time in the armed forces, I know for a fact that there are so many of them who are the best conservationists that you can ever ask for. They are good birders, they are good hunters, and they understand also that there is patriotism. This was put to us by the armed forces, the Indian Army, that environmental protection is patriotism in action. This was a slogan that came out with them, and they did everything. Sitting here, they built things for the rhino. So I would like to ask 1, 2, 3. I won't speak because I'm doing that all part of my life has been that. Would you consider literally asking your fraternity within your own press clubs and etc. Focus on the people who are protecting the biosphere, because tomorrow is not just today, it is tomorrow. Make those people the heroes, and you don't have to vilify those who are doing something bad unless you want to or you can. But don't give them the hero status. And this idea is not mine, it came from an Inuit chieftain in Alaska. I had asked him at that time because President Bush had said that all the wetlands are useless, fill them up and build them. So I said, how do you live with your, and he spoke a spiritual speech, How do you live in a country like America where now you are going to face this kind, what is the dichotomy here? So he said, who said I live in America? He said if President Bush wants to come to meet me, he can't even come in a helicopter because the ice flow will go like this, the helicopter can't land. He has to land somewhere, then he has to come there, then he has to take a boat, then one of us has to kayak, and then he has to come. So, first of all, he said, I don't live in America. The isolation. The second of all, he said, but you live in America, he told me. I said, yeah, how? He said, look at your clothes. Who lives in America? Look at my clothes, look at your clothes, look at... So, that was one very clear lesson that he gave. And then he ended it by saying, you know who a hero is in my country? A hero is a person who goes out and kills maybe a walrus, or maybe a whale, or maybe a seal, and then he gives the heart to somebody, then he gives the eyes to somebody, he gives the tongue to somebody, he gives the sweat to somebody. He shares it, and he becomes a hero. But in your country, he spoke like this, in your country, I'll steal from him, steal from him, steal from him, steal from them, put in my pocket, you make him a hero. How are you going to run a country? So I'm saying one of our jobs is to make the right people the heroes. Molai, Vibhav Talukdar, Raj Pukar, all these people are out in the front lines fighting, and they need the support of others, not only financial support, not only protection, they need emotional support. And I think that is part of our job. And if we can end on that, that would be wonderful.
Definitely, sir. But just limiting by making them heroes is not. I think media can do much more. There's a younger
I'm not saying
generation.
limit, I'm saying also.
Yes, but yeah, there's a younger generation coming up more concerned about conservation, climate change. I think media can definitely play a part, bring these heroes more closer to society than just on a TV screen or papers, and then get involved with the youth. Definitely we can do something.
I actually do not want to open this subject. Because hero worshipping and I can tell you will be all embarrassed. Hero worshipping I don't do. I burned my fingers, many people know here in this room, by making somebody hero who is internationally famous now. But if I want to tell the truth, because I realize that many of the eco warriors are not actually eco warriors, which were fakely created by people like us, and I'm very ashamed of that. And that is why initially what I say, something which I cannot say, this is what I cannot say. There's a world now written figures. Even some of them are in this hall also. But they are fake eco warriors created by the media, spin doctors, and the whole world is now into this is where people are smiling.
Nobody can deny the truth of what you say. They're called Trojan horses. Internally, we call them Trojan horses.
No, they are not Trojan horses. They are Poken horses. Trojan horses is like this. Anyway, I will not be all that. Now I am a diplomatic character.
No, I want to first shake your hand.
I know who you are talking about.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Some of them.
Something which I mentioned earlier, that we have to be wary whose voices we become while becoming the voice of the voiceless. Yes, we should we have to bring out the success stories. Success in, here we are talking about specific conservation and climate change. Of course, we have to bring it out. And it could be about a school or something also. But where we fail as a media is that we do that one story, we get some good views or likes, and then it ends there. It ends for me, and I never know what happens after that. So who will take it forward? Me as a media person cannot. There, I would have to ask that the people who had read that story, the people maybe who were near that school, or that person about whom we had written, whether they are taking it forward, maybe that, and maybe we can actually use social media there. Me as a mainstream media has a lot of problem with social media because people mistake us for citizen journalists now. Everybody is a journalist, and I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am, so that's a problem. But there also lies the power of social media, where me as a person, maybe I have written about somebody. I'm taking Rupak Das example because he's not into planting trees. That's why I'm telling. So I read, Rupak Das has done this wonderful job, and I have said that he has done it there. I can do only that much. He lives in Chanmari area, so the people, Minalda is his neighbor, so to say. It will be on Minalda also to see whether Rupakda did that only for that news byline, that focus, or he is actually going forward with that. And if he is not going forward, you have the social media power to use it. Or you can again come back to us and we can do that. That is only that much we can do. Otherwise,
it's a good thing you're saying. We can close the evening. I intentionally spoke about heroes. Because the average age of my constituency is 14 years. I'm almost not wasting time on my white-haired generation anymore because all of us are in the departure lounge. How much are we going to do? But with the children, we owe it to them. I'll tell you, if there's even half a teacher in this room, they'll tell you that children do not do what you tell them to do, they do what you do. So if you have a hero who's going out killing and shooting and killing and things like this, you can't not have a counterbalance to that. There must be, you could call them heroes, find another word, but there must be somebody they look up to, somebody they respect, somebody they trust. So I think that the future of the conservation movement itself lies with the young people who are watching what we do today. So maybe the heroes we want to make are now 12, 13, 14 years old, doing the right thing. So,
hero becomes self-promotion, that's a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you, and there are lots of those. I mean, we know. And
I have a problem with the conservationists now.
Yeah, you have all the right to have them because I'll tell you, it's very easy to fight somebody who you know, but it's very difficult to fight somebody who's sitting in your room praising you when you're there and actually. This is not only for conservation, this is for almost any profession.
Self-promotion is the most important thing nowadays.
Yeah. So time to go everybody. Thank you very much. Not before we thank the Balipara Foundation. We thank Ranjit. Ranjit Barthapur has been fighting away for the last 20-30 years. Stuck with it and have a very good night.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. This was really good.
We are grateful to our panelists for coming together to shed light on how the media can drive the conservation agenda forward. Their insights will certainly inspire new ways of thinking about the power of storytelling in shaping both policy and public perception.